G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel Bonsai Works. I'm David. Today I'm continuing my work on deciduous trees in late spring. So this is a trident maple. I've done a previous video on Japanese maple and what you can do. So this tree I've had for quite some time. It's a trident maple. You can see how leggy the growth is, or it's gone really long, lots of healthy new growth. I haven't been trimming this as much as the other trees at the moment because I want to just change something with this tree. It's kind of, how do I say this? It's not very interesting. So it's a very pedestrian, very boring kind of tree in my eyes compared to some of my other trees with more character and interest. So I want to see if I can create something better this time around. This is a good time to do it. It's late summer. It's pushed all the growth. So now that I can cut back, it's actually it can handle it. There won't be much bleeding of sap, etc. The other thing good time now, or you could have done it even earlier, is defoliating, taking all the leaves off trident maples. By taking the leaves off, what happens is you force it to push another set of leaves, which usually is smaller, and those smaller leaves start to make smaller branches. So smaller branches, more branches means better ramification on the tree. So that's what your ultimate game is. So ultimate goal is creating ramification on tridents is really, really important. The more ramification you have, so the more small branching you have, the more smaller the leaves will become. So if you don't have much branches, you'll notice your leaves are quite big. Once you have lots of branches, small branches, the leaves tend to be smaller. The tree has to feed so much more leaves, therefore it's much smaller leaves are produced from the roots. So that's how it kind of works. So if you don't have, hopefully that makes sense. So first thing with this tree, this is the front that I've got. It's had it for many years. This is the front of the tree. The roots are not the best anyway from any side. As you can see, it's all very overgrown. So first thing first is I'm going to cut back everything to at least on the branches to the one pair, just like the way I did the Japanese maple video, which I'll link in the comments to this video below. We'll link it at the end. So if you cut back, for example, on this branch, you cut back to the first set of leaves. So cut back to the first set of leaves that you got. Actually, it's probably here. Just start doing that because I need to do that regardless. Just cut back to the first set of leaves all the way through. First set of leaves all the way through. So if you start doing that, the tree there dramatically reduces. I'm not looking at which branches are healthy or anything like that now. Sometimes you get really long ones like this with nothing in between. So just find where you can cut back to somewhere down there. So just do it all the way through your tree. Cut back, cut back, cut back, all the way through. And then let's have a look what it looks like once you've done that. So back to the first pair. Back to the first pair. Back to the first pair everywhere. Just keep going through that process. Okay? All right, so now you can probably see just quickly cutting back, it looks already pretty nice, right? Most people will be happy with that. Now, the next step for me is I want to try and expose the structure of the tree. A lot of the foliage is obviously, covering the structure of the tree. And also just to give you an idea of the trunk, what it looks like and how it forks into two. You really can't see that just yet. So now I want to defoliate the whole tree. So defoliation is simply going in and cutting all the stem of all the leaves. So I cut them pretty much in half. So as long as you cut the little leaf, there's a little stem and the leaf, you just cut it in half. That's fine. That little piece will just drop off and die back. So you just go through the whole tree, cut off all the leaves, but cut off leaving a little bit of you cut through pretty much the stem in the middle. That's fine. Just cut it as long as you cut it off. Don't have to get right close or anything like that because that little stem bit will just drop off eventually. So now I'm just going to go cut everything off. Cut all the leaves, just the leaves. Remember, we cut the branches. If I find something that's out of whack, I'll cut the branch as well. But all in all, and if I haven't gone to the first pair, I'll I'll do that as well. So I'll find things like that which haven't been done. So I'll just cut them off, cut everything off. Okay. So that's my next step. That's defoliation. Okay. And remember, defoliation is all about building up branches, more and more branches on the tree, smaller branches, smaller leaves. So more leaves, more ramification. That's the number one thing to get with deciduous trees, lots of ramification. So after defoliation, this is how it looks. Now, most people, this is pretty cool. Like, it's got all the branching you need and so on. It's got nice, well, it's got long growth, but I'll give you a little spin. It's pretty interesting, but you probably notice a lot of the branches are very flat. Now, they don't look very deciduous-like. It looks more like a triangle. And I've been trying to avoid that process. I'll avoid that in my trees at this time. Like, I'm trying to change some of my trees. This is starting to get okay, but this is quite flat over here. Some flat bits. This is okay. You know, there's some interest, but my main issue is this. You can see the twin trunk in here, the two trunks, and in this spot here, it's getting very quite wide. It's actually probably wider than here. If you can notice this at this point in here, is thicker than this. So this tree could never really be displayed without its foliage. So I was trying to think of ways to improve it. I don't want to go extreme in cutting off trunks and stuff like that. But what I found, this is quite uninteresting. Nothing really special. And the bar is okay-ish. I mean, only this side's okay. But what I did is I thought I'd create something a bit more unique. Now, let's have a look at the back. Now, over the years, what's happened is there would have been a big wound here, and it's actually naturally hollowed out, made two hollows in here, and it flows down and into this little hole in here. And actually, when I water, the water flows out and through in there and through this hole. So there's two big holes in here and a couple of little holes in here, and there's actually a big wound in here. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much dead. There's a bit of a wound in here that's a bit, been wounded off and hasn't really healed. So maybe you can see where I'm going to create something more interesting from this angle of the tree, with the hollows, with something more interesting, a bit more very, very out there. It's not a typical traditional looking tree. It's got a lot of issues. Maybe this is one way to make some sort of interest in the tree. Maybe a slight turn this way so you can see these two hollows quite clearly. It looks like big eyes or something. And trying to be a bit more creative. Like, it's not really the traditional bonsai, not really traditional Japanese. It's just something a bit more interesting and fun to do with a tree that you're really struggling with. So my ultimate thing is to see if I can work with this as the front, to create something like a very Halloween-y style tree, something a bit more out there, something to talk about all these hollows and interest, and you actually get to see what's happening with that tree. I'm going to try and hollow out this as well, create a bit more of a hollow there, create a bit more of a hollow there, to create real interest in this area, just to look into it. So that's my goal, and that's a challenge. So usually I don't like wiring deciduous trees as much, especially at this stage, but because I'm doing structural work, I'm doing restructuring the tree, restructuring the branches around and up, like I have to put some wire on there, unfortunately. I don't normally wire my branches on deciduous trees at this stage, but I'm going to restructure the tree, therefore I have to put new wire on it, which is, it's got to be done. So I just did some hollowing out, just to try and then put a little bit of a continuation of the hollowing. So what happens now, instead of the water sitting in that hollow and keep running it out, it will come down here and go this way. So it will stop hollowing out the main trunk, which is what I was trying to do with that hollow. I've also done it for that as well. Made a nice little transition down. So the water shouldn't sit in there anymore, so it shouldn't hollow it out. I didn't want to hollow it out all the way through just yet. Maybe in the future we'll do that. I didn't want to touch any of this because it looks really good, so I didn't do any hollowing there. I like how it's trying to naturally grow over the top, so it looks pretty good. So now I'm going to try and see if I can wire this tree. As I've been wiring and restructuring the tree, as I said, I really don't like wiring deciduous trees, but I have to try and get these branches to start moving upwards. You hit the apex area, which is kind of everywhere and quite thick and heavy. So we've got a major issue here about what we're going to do with this apex. It's quite heavy, so I need to eliminate the heavy branches. I'm going to have to keep this pretty small and compact. So a lot of these branches come now down and then up, and you can see the tips are kind of pointing up. They're like fingers in the air now. I'm trying to be fingers in the air everywhere. I'm trying to do this. A lot of these branches now are moving upwards into more deciduous look. So we really have to think about how I'm going to get all these in the upward growth and so on. So some of these smaller ones I want to keep, but sometimes there's a bit of heavy growth in here that I need to eliminate. And unfortunately, it's just got to happen. It's too heavy. There's too much heavy branches in the apex. I need to come back to finer branches in the apex. So a lot of it's got to be eliminated carefully though. So probably wire that up. Those are nice and small. I've got to be able to try and bring branches upwards. So that's probably the hard bit. Anything that's too long, I have to get rid of. So here's roughly how the tree ended up after I have finished trying to rewire it. I'll show you a close-up of everything in a minute, but I've also tilted the pot slightly so the tree doesn't come straight out of the ground straight, like it's now slightly on an angle. You see that slight angle to the right, looks quite nice. Now I'll show you where the branching and all the close-ups of what I've done. So firstly, let's go through the hollows and how good they look. So they're the hollows, the natural ones. Then I've increased that one over there, and I've made that one. I'll probably want to extend that one, make it a bit more interesting. Now, if you look at these branches, now if I put the camera on the same plane as the branch, you see these branches actually go up. They make more of a deciduous looking branch. So some of these go down, this is going down, and then all these branches are going upwards. You know, I can't really move these because it's already been set from a while ago. And at the top, I've just reduced it heavily. I'm trying to wire these more upright, try and get these more upright. They're quite heavy at the moment, so we'll have to see what happens. I'm hoping we get smaller ones and I can take the heavier ones out and improve them. So you can see again, branches come up and up, come up and up, different planes as well. One's a bit higher, one's a bit lower and up. So trying to get different levels, but I'm also trying to make that deciduous look. Trying to break the downward cycle. So this branch again goes up, comes down, and then goes up, goes up. So you can see the natural, and then the different levels. So some a bit lower, some a bit higher, and so forth. So I think it's a big improvement on this tree, and it has potential to be a better tree now. Obviously, you can't correct all the defects that I've had with the tree over the years in terms of, you know, the triangular look. That's, you know, it takes a while to get rid of those or break up the cycle of those horizontal and below horizontal branches, but I am trying. So I think the angle that the tree is now is a much bigger improvement, and that those gnarly, interesting hollows look really good in here. This one I'll probably make a bit bigger in the future. This one I'm going to try and maybe, I don't know, do something to make this not as wide here. Just eventually make this more probably lower, get it going down more and more over time, and getting it looking good. There you go, guys. How to properly change a tree. I've just totally put it to the back, made it much more interesting, looked for the better features of the tree, new angle, and wired all the branches to be more upright, going upwards, and trying to break the horizontal cycle of the branches. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you around for more.